This week is National Eczema Awareness Week, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about my experience of that, both as a GP and also as a father. Hi, it's Doctor Hogg doing another one of my kitchen videos. This week is National Eczema Awareness Week, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about my experience of that, both as a GP and also as a father. My daughter suffers with eczema, so it is an issue that's close to my heart. It's caused a lot of late nights, a lot of broken sleep, a lot of itching, scratching, a lot of tears. A lot of time spent applying moisturisers and steroids, trips to the doctor and so on. So, you know, her condition is fairly mild, to be fair, but for some people it can be a really nasty condition. And I thought it might be interesting just to give you my take on it as a GP. I think one of the commonest questions that I get asked is, you know, what causes my eczema? You know, what is it that makes it worse? And, you know, what can we do to make it better? You know, is there anything that doesn't involve taking steroids? As with a lot of medical conditions, there isn't one simple unifying cause for eczema. It's a bit of an umbrella term, eczema, as there's lots of different types of eczema, but the eczema that a lot of people are familiar with and that you'll probably see in the news and in magazines and so on, is generally something called atopic eczema, which is a type of allergic eczema, which is often associated with conditions such as asthma and hay fever. And in about 50% of those cases, they're associated with a genetic defect, something called the filaggrin gene. And filaggrin is important for the normal development of skin cells as they migrate out to the outer layers of your skin to develop the normal barrier qualities that the skin has to protect it against losing moisture. And if you lose that, if that gene's not working properly, you have a tendency towards inflammation, moisture loss, which can lead to this sort of nasty, vicious itching and scratching cycle that some people get stuck in. People often ask me, is it diet related? Is there something that I can do in respect to my diet? And that's a really good question. But there've been quite a few studies done looking at diet in the context of eczema, and mostly that they're not of very good quality. If you look on the internet, just Google eczema and diet, there's loads and loads of articles on websites saying, you know, do the Mediterranean diet, do the anti-inflammatory diet. And most of them are based on poor quality research, and for most people adjusting your diet is probably actually not going to make that much difference. There is some evidence in a small proportion of children that eczema is associated with certain types of egg allergies, and for them it may be beneficial to avoid that from their diet, but for most people it's not going to really make that much difference. So what can we do to treat it? The key thing really, as a lot of people are probably familiar, is regular moisturisation, and that's one of the first things that I do when I check, when I'm with parents, often with their children. You know, what are you using and how often are you using it? Moisturisers, emollients, they're sort of interchangeable terms. And there isn't a lot of evidence to say that one moisturiser is necessarily better than the other. It's just a case of getting as much moisturiser on your skin as you can. I tend to say if the eczema is quite mild, you can often use a less greasy product like aqueous cream, for example. If the symptoms are quite bad, you might want to use a thicker product like Epiderm, for example, because it tends to last a little bit longer on the skin. But you need to be getting it on regularly, and often when I see children in my clinic, the skin's still quite dry and they're not having enough moisturiser on regularly. It is quite time consuming, it's laborious, it gets on the clothes, but there, you know, it does require a degree of persistence. So for flares, you're really thinking about using steroids, and it generates a lot of concern for parents using steroids. You know, a lot of parents are worried about the consequences of using steroids, and that's understandable, because steroids on the skin are associated with side effects such as thinning of the skin, lightening of the skin, stretch marks, acne as well. So it's understandable. I do sometimes see people who are reticent about using the steroids. However, in my experience as a GP, if they're used properly, it's actually not a very common problem to see steroid side effects. The key thing really is, are you using the right product at the right frequency and with the right, are you using something called fingertip units? Okay, what are fingertip units? So we say if you squirt an inch worth of steroid cream onto your fingertip, we refer to that as a fingertip unit. And that should cover an area roughly twice the size of an adult palm. Okay, so that's an approximate rule of thumb. With thicker areas of skin like your hand or your torso, we tend to use a stronger steroid, and we tend to use it for a little bit longer. So you might use it for 7 to 14 days, typically twice a day. And you might, for the face and the neck area where the skin's a little bit thinner, you might use a milder steroid and use it for shorter periods, such as 5 days or so. You would normally want to continue the steroid for 48 hours after the flare has calmed down, and then go back to your regular emollient regime on its own. You should still be moisturising at the same time as using the steroid. Another one of